In a small town, there was a beautiful woman whom the entire town was crazy about. This 20-year-old student named Renado fell in love with her at first sight. Every day, he tried to confess his feelings to her, but somehow, someone or something would come in the way. While following her around, would Renado ever be able to express his love? Let's see. The movie opens in a small Italian town where some government officials are going around announcing that at noon, everyone should keep their TV and radio on because their country's leader was going to make an important statement about World War II. After hearing this announcement, the townspeople became anxious and rushed home to listen to the news on their radios and televisions. Meanwhile, there was a Renado whose life had gone through three big changes. First, he had taken part in Italy's involvement in World War II. Second, he had bought himself a bicycle. And third, his eyes had fallen upon the most beautiful woman in the town. When Renado bought the bicycle, the shopkeeper explained to him how to take care of it. After learning about it, Renado proudly took the bicycle to show his friends. As he rode through the town, he saw a huge crowd gathered, listening to the government's broadcast. The message said that Italy had declared war on France. After that, Renado reached his friends with his new bicycle, and they were thrilled to see it. But suddenly, another boy shouted, "Everyone sit down, she's coming." Hearing this, all the boys quickly sat down on a wall nearby, and Renado joined him, puzzled about who they were waiting for. A few moments later, a woman passed by, stunningly beautiful, the most gorgeous woman in town. Her name was Malena. Her husband was a soldier, currently fighting in Africa. The moment Renado laid eyes on her, he was completely mesmerized. Love at first sight. It felt as if electricity rushed through every vein in his body. He just couldn't take his eyes off her, while she silently walked ahead. As soon as she was gone, the boys started following her from a distance, and Renado too kept staring as she walked farther away. The next day, when Renado was in class, he couldn't focus on his studies at all. So he skipped school and went to wait outside her house. But he couldn't spot her anywhere. Sitting on the roadside, he kept gazing at her door. In that moment, Renado daydreamed. In his vision, Malena appeared at the door, calling him inside. When he walked up to her, she handed him some money, asking him to buy cigarettes. But as he took the money, it slipped from his hand. When he bent down to pick it up, he imagined Malena standing before him in such a way that it felt as though she was accepting his love. Suddenly, his daydream broke, and he came back to reality. Since he couldn't see Malena, Renado returned home. Soon after, he stole a pair of pants from his father and went to a tailor to get them altered. The tailor advised him that it was too early for him to wear such trousers, but Renado insisted. Then, wanting to make himself look handsome, he went to a barber shop to get a haircut. Renado was doing all of this only to impress Malena. When he returned home, his father was furious because his pants had gone missing, the very pants Renado had taken to the tailor. Once his father found out. Meanwhile, since Malena's husband was away, every man in town secretly desired her, which made her look even more alluring. After finishing her sewing, she put on some music and, holding a picture of her husband, began to lose herself in the rhythm. Midnight had already passed. The next day, Renado went to a music shop and bought the same cassette he had heard playing in Malena's room. Later that night, he played it in his own room, lay on his bed, and imagined Malena there with him, talking to him sweetly. Somehow, he made it through the night. The following morning, Renado rode his bicycle to the seaside, where he wrote a letter to Malena. In it, he confessed that he was her true admirer and mentioned that the townspeople spoke ill of her. He assured her that he wanted nothing but to be a good friend to her. The next day, Renado followed Malena because he wanted to know where she went every morning. As he trailed her, he noticed all the men staring at her with longing eyes. Everyone wanted her. But the women of the town despised her, blaming her for their husbands' wandering hearts. One man, who knew Malena personally, came up to her and kissed her hand. Seeing this, the other men standing around grew angry. Renado too felt a pang of jealousy, but he continued following her on his bicycle. Malena was aware that Renado was trailing her, yet she never said a word. Eventually, she entered a house. Renado crept close and discovered that the house belonged to her father, who also happened to be one of his school teachers. Malena visited him regularly, as he was now an old and frail man. Renado secretly watched all this from above the doorway. When Malena finally left, Renado continued shadowing her until he made it back home. That night, while lying in bed, the sound of it dropping made his father storm into the room, shouting angrily. The next day, some government officials gathered in the town square, along with the townspeople. They were mourning the fallen soldiers of the war. It was announced that Malena's husband, too, had died in battle. Hearing this, some men in town secretly felt pleased, but Renado was disgusted by their behavior. From there, Renado went straight to Malena's father's house. Climbing over the wall, he sneaked inside and reached her room, where he imagined seeing Malena lying on the bed, crying over her husband's death. In his vision, Renado approached her, wiped her tears, and promised he would always take care of her. But suddenly, his daydream broke. In reality, he was just standing outside outside Malena's father's house, lost in thought. Afterward, Renado went to the church to pray for Malena. He begged God to protect her from suffering and to keep the townspeople away from her. He even promised that if Malena stayed safe, he would light a candle there every day. A few days later, Renado sneaked back to Malena's house. He saw her tossing some ashes from the fireplace into the garden. Somehow, Malena sensed that, so she paused and stepped back quietly. Renado, too nervous to say a word, just kept staring at her. Soon, Malena went outside to hang her wet clothes to dry, and then returned inside. Renado then secretly approached. That night, he clutched the garment, thinking of her until he drifted off to sleep. The next morning, when his father came to wake him up, furious, his father's anger exploded, and the family's honor seemed ruined. Renado's mother burned the garment in the fire. 3 days passed. Renado, lost in thoughts of Malena, stopped eating and became ill. A doctor was called, who said the didn't need medicine, just fresh air. He would recover on his own. After hearing this, Renado's parents finally set him free again. Malena is sitting with a government officer from the town, and after spending some time together, the officer left her house. Outside, he was confronted by another man. He couldn't bear the thought of Malena being with anyone but him. The two men broke into a fight. Just then, the jealous man's wife arrived with the police. The officers stopped the brawl, while the woman accused Malena of destroying marriages in the town and luring husbands away from their wives. The next day, rumors spread through the entire town like wildfire, and soon people began saying that Malena should be sent to prison. Meanwhile, her father was teaching at school when he received a letter about his daughter. The letter accused Malena of sleeping with all the men in town. After reading it, even her father severed all ties with her. This broke Malena's heart completely. Renado, too, was deeply saddened by her suffering, though he felt powerless to help her. To defend herself, Malena went to a prominent lawyer in town and asked him to take her case. The lawyer, who was also infatuated with her, agreed. Using his influence, he won a case for her. Afterward, the lawyer visited Malena's home. While there, he began dancing around. The next morning, Renado went to the church to pray, but angrily scolded God, feeling betrayed that he had not helped Malena. Later, sitting by the seaside, she had started living with him, not out of love, but because he had money. Seeing this, Renado's heart shattered. One day at school, Renado began writing another letter to Malena. As he wrote, his thoughts drifted so strongly to her that even his teacher appeared to him as Malena. When she approached his desk, Renado, lost in his fantasy, asked her if she would. The teacher was shocked and insulted, and she threw him out of the classroom. When Renado returned home, he saw the lawyer visiting his own mother. But his mother already knew about her son's affair with Malena. In anger and shame, she beat him severely, accusing him of disgracing his father's name. Humiliated, the lawyer ended things with Malena. His desire for her had faded. Left alone and desperate, Malena had to rely on different men just to have food to survive. That was when she realized society only wanted one thing from her body. As Malena walked through the town one day, Renado followed her at a distance. He hated seeing other men close to her. Stopping with his bicycle at a corner, he gathered the courage to approach her. When Malena saw him, she sensed that perhaps he wanted to help her. They began walking toward each other, but suddenly, Malena looked away and ignored him, continuing on. Up ahead, a man met her, offering her some food. As soon as she put a bite into her mouth, fighter planes roared overhead. The town's air raid sirens went off, and panic erupted. Everyone ran toward their homes. Renado too grabbed his bicycle and fled. Moments later, bombs fell on the town, reducing many buildings to rubble. Among the dead was Malena's father. The next day, a funeral was held for him. Malena attended along with the townspeople. Everyone offered her words of comfort one by one. Renado too tried to console her, but he was pushed aside. Shortly afterward, the same man who had brought her food appeared again. That night, Malena cut her hair and gave herself a fresh look. She wanted to start life over again, and for her, this was necessary to survive and earn money. Next day, Malena walked through the town with her new look. All the men were mesmerized by her beauty, while the women burned with jealousy. She sat among a group of men and took out a cigarette. Instantly, every man around her lit his lighter, offering her a flame. It was in that moment Malena realized a cruel truth. When she tried to live with dignity, nobody cared about her. Men lined up with hundreds of offers. Renado, watching from a distance, was crushed by this sight. He despised what she had been forced to become. Days passed this way, and Malena grew infamous, yet popular in the town. One day, he fainted. His mother, believing he was possessed by an evil spirit, took him to the church, begging the priest to cure him. But Malena's father knew very well what troubled him. The next day, Renado's father took him to allowing him to enjoy him slowly recovered. Soon after, the Allied forces won the war. The entire town celebrated the end of the conflict. But amid the celebration, suspicions, the town's women hatched a plan to punish them and throw them out of the community. Carrying out their plan, the women stormed into the brothel. Dragging the women out into the streets, they humiliated them publicly by tearing off their clothes. Malena was their prime target. Renado and the other men stood by silently. No one dared to protect her. After this horrific incident, Malena left the town. Renado could only watch her walk away from a distance, powerless to stop her. She looked back at him for a moment. There was something unspoken in her gaze. Deep down, she too may have loved Renado, but she never had the chance to say it. Heartbroken, Renado went to sit alone on a hillside. Holding Malena's music cassette in his hand, he remembered her and cried. In his heart, he felt sure of one thing, that somewhere, somehow Malena had begun to love him too. A few days after the war ended, a man arrived in the town. It was none other than Malena's husband. During the fighting, he had gone missing, and when he wasn't found, the military declared him dead. In the war, he had also lost one of his arms. When he returned home, he discovered that his house had been turned into a refugee camp. Asking around about his wife, he eventually learned everything that had happened to her in his absence. It broke his heart. He had gone to war for the very people who had forced his wife out of her own home. Renado wanted to tell Malena's husband where she had gone, but he didn't have the courage to face him directly. One night, Renado wrote him a letter explaining where Malena had last been seen. He slipped the letter onto the husband's bed. When Malena's husband read it, he finally learned the truth, not only where she had gone, but also the humiliation she had endured in order to survive. The letter said that Malena had last taken a train to Messina City and hadn't returned since. With this information, her husband went to the city to find her. A few days later, the town seemed back to normal, buzzing with life. Then suddenly, everyone's eyes turned to a couple walking together. To their shock, it was Malena and her husband. He had found her and brought her back, proudly walking with her through the town. People were stunned. It took real courage to do what he had done. One morning, Malena went alone to the market to buy vegetables. There, she encountered the very women who had once forced her out of town. This time, the women greeted her politely with a good morning. Surprised, Malena paused for a moment, then replied, "Good morning," choosing to take the first step toward making life normal again. After finishing her shopping, she was on her way home when some flowers fell from her bag. Renado, who was standing nearby, quickly rushed over, gathered the flowers, and placed them back into her bag. As Malena picked it up to leave, Renado mustered the courage to call out softly from behind, "Good luck, Malena." She turned back, smiled gently, and thanked him with a nod. Renado was happy, not because he had gained Malena's love, but because in helping her, he felt he had honored his love for her. Smiling, he rode away on his bicycle, glancing back again and again, remembering her as he moved forward. Malena, too, was finally happy, reunited with her husband. And so this bittersweet, incomplete love story came to an end.